So my first task is to take some measurements, and if we have the ruler, that will give us some basics. So about 80 millimeters. Again, with the measurements, if you're more comfortable with centimeters, then 8 centimeters, 80 millimeters. The units that we set are going to be in millimeters, though. So I believe there is a setting, so I'll have to go look in the preferences real quick. So 80 millimeters by about 170, 171, and about 10 millimeters thick. But then looking at it a little closer, it's a little over 10 millimeters. So if we go up a level of precision to calipers, then we can see it's a little over 80. So with clearance, we'd be at about 81. And the length right there at 170, 171. And then the miss on the 10 millimeters this is a lot closer to 12 than what I'd anticipated. So introducing the sketching tools then. Let's go into the document units. We're in inches, so I can switch to centimeters or to millimeters. Again, your preference. When I come over into the sketch, it's going to ask me where I want to sketch. So if we're looking at the top plane based on the cube, so the top plane, the right plane, the front plane, open up that sketch, and not sure why it's rotating around like that. That's kind of strange. So if I rotate over, we're looking at it from, that's showing as the bottom. So 50 millimeters minus 50 millimeters, that's still a little reverse. So kind of want to make sure that I'm getting my perspective of what I'm expecting it to do. So right click and an OK. All right, so our lines, we go in. We always just start off. Now I could use the rectangle, but want to introduce the relations and constraints and just general geometry. So on the sketch palette, you want to leave that sketch palette somewhere where you can access it. If you reduce it and um, move it out of the way, you still want to be able to get back to it because it has information, construction lines, center lines, just the being able to turn these on and off easily. So keep that somewhere handy. When we go to the origin, we're going to have that little bit of snap, and it picks up the origin. I'm going to drag this out some distance. We said 81, and I can hit enter. Oh, and then that kicks me out of it. So I want to do the next one, 171, and click. We'll come back to the start and back to the start. All right, so when I click OK, that will get me out of it. I can position my dimensions a little bit better so that we can see. And using the middle scroll wheel mouse, I'll rotate that a couple times so that we can see the coincident back to the origin. And then horizontal. And that one pretty much picks up the horizontal, and then a perpendicular, perpendicular, perpendicular. That's kind of where we're left. So I want to go ahead and put in a couple of more pieces of geometry here. So again, this is just a layout sketch. So that's my midpoint showing up. I don't know that I want to grab that, but I'll bring out a couple of lines for the button, and I would say that it's at about 83. So putting in another dimension. Let's see, do I have that here as I look around? So there's a sketch dimension if we want to pick it up. So if I pick two objects, then I will be dimensioning between those. So 83 there, and then my next number will go from that same datum to 105. And then I have to decide if I'm concerned with something like the volume keys. This is pretty much the power. So the volume keys, we'll put it in there. May not use it. So let's do 115. So we're back. I can pick up the sketch and go into the line. And while we're there, we'll go ahead and put in another one. And we'll get back into the sketch dimensions. All right, so that right mouse button is going to be a little bit quicker, 115. Yeah, might as well say 115 to about 140. So 115 looks good. And I'm just bringing these all the way across. So it's telling me that that information's, and I missed again. And no, I don't want it to be driven. So I got to be a little more careful in my selection. And then, let's see, there wasn't anything in there. Oh, so we can go ahead and cancel out of the dimension. All right, so drawing a rectangle, 2-point rectangle. This would be for the camera. So looking down on the camera, that this is going to be the bottom. I'm actually on the wrong side, so I'm going to drag this over a little ways and pull this out. And looking at its dimensions, about 10 millimeters in and 25 millimeters to the sides. So back into the sketch, and this is again same as coming up to the title bar, getting into the dimension. We'll set our 10 and the 25. And if you put the dimensions where it's readable, convenient for you to view it, and then about 10 millimeters from the top and 45 millimeters to the bottom. So we'll add those in, and that'll be the view for the camera. So one of the reasons, when it's enclosed, then that would be able to still take a picture when it's slid into where you can view the window. When it's around the other way, we're really not going to be that concerned with snapping a picture. So just thinking of through the process, and let's go ahead and escape out of the dimension, and that becomes my first sketch, so I can finish the sketch. But what I would want to be able to do is, if this is in or out, even though I can't see the screen, I could still operate the volume buttons, access the phone control, and then slide it in or out based on if I need to use it. All right, so this just becomes a layout sketch for reference, and we're ready to draw our first shape. So the other the other example illustrated, I kind of started from this top and I built up. So I want to show some of the sketching tools a little bit more. So we did the lines, we did the rectangle. So if I were to open up a sketch in the front plane this time, I can pick up my geometry. We'll go from the origin, and it shows it at that point at 80. So let's come over here and I'll rotate over just a bit. And I can utilize that existing if I can pick it up. So if I hold down the control button there, let's see if that will give me my coincident. Or I can go into coincident and pick two objects, and that will also allow me to grab that geometry. Go back into the front, and we'll drag up. We can go to the 12 millimeters for the clearance. We'll right click and repeat line. And we'll get that one a little bit closer. You can also want to generate that lip so it doesn't just fall out. So that's going to be 2 millimeters. And right click, repeat line. We'll drag that one out and escape. When I pick one of those objects, I can look across the top here: horizontal, vertical, coincident, tangent, equal, parallel, and perpendicular. Probably won't fix and unfix. Midpoint, concentric if we have circles and arcs, collinear for the lines, so that would be a possibility for this object. So let's go equal. Oh, and then last, finishing up, we have symmetry and matching curvatures. So I'm going to scroll wheel mouse up a little bit, select those two, they become equal, and still selecting, so let's undo. Okay, make sure that I have my geometry. We'll set to equal. Okay, so reading this, let's escape. And if I pick on this, I can see that it's 2 millimeters down here on the lower right, and 2 millimeters over here as well. Those don't really look like they're on the same line, but I guess they are. Alright, so we'll drag that out a little ways. And then one of the tools that we can use to generate this shape is offset. So the chain selection, most all of these pop-ups are going to ask you to select something. So not sure why we had issues. It wasn't going all the way around. If it doesn't go all the way around, then we would go through and pick the ones that didn't highlight, or in the case of it only finding some of the geometries, I could turn the chain selection off and have it select individually. All right, so we got those 5 objects, and I'm going to make this 3 millimeters. It's going the right way. It's going to the outside. So if I wanted to flip it to the interior, we're going to lose some because, well, it can't calculate with a 2 millimeter offset. So we go back into the line, catch our edge here, and close that off so that it turns blue and becomes a region.